A few weeks ago, my laptop died. Just like that. No warning, black screen, that was it. And in that moment I thought, well, I guess it's time to buy something more modern. What I didn't know was that choosing a computer in 2026 would turn into a much bigger dilemma than I expected. Because, of course, you walk into a store or open an online shop, and it's always the same thing. Windows 11 on one side, MacBook on the other. That's it. With Windows 11, honestly, I didn't want to go through the same thing again. Endless updates, background processes, that constant feeling like the system is never completely clean. And a Mac? Well, let's be honest, I can't afford it. So I thought, alright, Linux. These days, it's more mainstream. More people talk about it. More creators recommend it. But I went looking for a laptop with Linux pre-installed, and it basically doesn't exist in physical stores. Online? Not exactly everywhere either. And that's when I ran into something I had never seriously considered before. Chromebooks. I knew they existed, but I never imagined they were that cheap. And this is where my real doubt started. Because, yeah, the price was tempting. They were too cheap. And when something is too cheap, you start to get suspicious. So I did what we all do. I went to forums, Reddit, comment sections, and what I found was an avalanche of negative criticism. Trash, paperweight, a browser with a keyboard, scam. And the more I read, the worse it got. It got to a point where I started thinking, are Chromebooks really that bad, or are we exaggerating a little? And this is where things start to get interesting, because the hate in those forums was so disproportionate that something felt off. And then I asked myself a question that completely changed how I was looking at everything. What if the problem isn't the Chromebook, but what we expect it to be? This is where the mental clash begins. A Chromebook looks like a normal laptop, and that's the main problem. It has a keyboard, a screen, USB ports. Physically, it looks like a traditional laptop, but it's not. And this is where a lot of people get confused. You buy it thinking it works like a normal laptop, that you're going to install Photoshop, your usual programs, maybe a game, and the system basically tells you no. And that's where the hate is born. Not because the device is bad, but because the expectation was something else. You buy a device expecting it to handle the tasks you were already doing, and when you try, you realize it simply can't. But here's the interesting part. It's not that it can't do it, it's that it was never designed to. But wait, this still isn't the most important part. The most important thing is understanding what it was actually designed for. Chrome OS wasn't created to compete directly with Windows, at least that's always been the narrative. It was built with a different philosophy. Cloud first. In other words, it's meant for you to do your everyday tasks directly from the browser, prioritizing cloud services over local storage. Email, YouTube, documents, online courses, banking, remote work. Without even realizing it, a lot of our daily tasks have already moved to the cloud. And Google knows it. That's why they push their business model in that direction. And that's where the Chromebook comes from. So unlike a traditional operating system, Chrome OS isn't trying to give you full compatibility with local programs. Its main focus is optimizing cloud-based work, reducing reliance on local installations, and simplifying the environment almost completely. And this is where the conversation gets interesting. Everyone says they're slow, but when you put a budget Chromebook next to a budget Windows laptop in the same price range, the story changes. A lot of the time, the Chromebook feels lighter, and the reason is simple. Windows carries years and years of backward compatibility, so you can run older programs. That means more services, more processes, more weight. A Chromebook does the opposite. It removes everything it doesn't need. It locks down the system so you can't mess with it. It verifies everything at startup. It isolates each app so it can't be modified. Less stuff running in the background, less noise, less wear. And that translates into something very simple. Efficiency. But careful, this doesn't mean a Chromebook is perfect, and here comes the other side of the coin. The limitations are real, and regular users feel them. This isn't a system where you install whatever you want. You work with what's available, period. And yes, Android apps exist, but let's be honest, it's not the same. Imagine you're a video editor, and your work depends on heavy software. You just bought a paperweight that won't help you. Or maybe you saved money for months to buy your first computer and play with your friends. You turn it on, excited, and then you realize you can't install the game. Well, my friend, you just bought a paperweight. In short, a Chromebook is not for you. Storage is limited, it's designed for cloud work, and that means depending on the internet. If you don't have a connection, you're basically stuck. And now comes the uncomfortable topic. With a Chromebook, you might feel safe, and honestly, you are, but security is not the same as privacy. A Chromebook is very secure, but it revolves entirely around your Google account. Full synchronization, centralized data. If we accuse Microsoft of spying on us with AI in Windows 11, with a Chromebook, we're basically handing our soul over to Google. A Chromebook fully integrates you into Google's ecosystem. If you don't embrace that ecosystem, you quickly realize you bought a paperweight. There are users who need to install their usual programs, have full control, experiment, and that's completely valid. But when someone buys a Chromebook expecting that and doesn't find it, they end up in a forum saying it's bad. A Chromebook isn't for creators or editors. It's not for gamers, but it is for people who do everyday tasks in a browser, like a student. But anyway, let's go back to the beginning. I'm standing in front of a decision. I don't want Windows, I can't afford a Mac. A Chromebook? No way. Most likely, I'll buy a Windows 11 laptop and just install Linux on it. What do you think? Install Linux or stick with Windows 11?